Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight, I know I said I was going to give you guys two videos. I didn't say what those two videos were. This is one of them. And this is the reason I'm giving you guys two videos. We had this come up today and my buddy Degen, you guys have seen his videos, I'm sure. I've recently done one where he was in the Lyon on the channel for a community replay. He always is keeping up with wargaming in both World of Warships Legends and World of Tanks console, and he's very good at being able to give me information. And so, thank you, first of all. And second of all, we're going to go over World of Warships Legends' very own Q&A. Q&A? Q&A. I don't know, I think I turned Australian for a moment. Been hanging out with you guys too long. Anyway, so let's just quickly go over it. I'm going to try to make this video as quick as possible, but also go over some things with you guys. This is not my Q&A that I did the other day. This is completely different. This is World of Warships Legends themselves, the developers answering questions that they get asked all the time. So we're going to go through them one by one, and at the end, who knows where we'll end up. But first of all, why do ships disappear and fire out of nowhere? Now, that's something that pretty much everybody should know, and that is that, you know, you have concealment and you also have your concealment changes based on whether you fire your guns or not. But anyway, they put up an entire video, and I will leave the link to this page in the description of this video so that it's easy for you guys to find. You know, so that you guys can click on the link if you want. But anyway, they have a video that they just put out, and they're going to be putting out other videos too. It takes them a little while to get them out, but they're very good videos, and they go over the fundamentals, the actual, you know, how all of the things work. Now, I'm kind of keeping an eye on that one myself because there's a few things I would like to learn more about. And so, you know, you're never too good to learn. And not that I'm that good to begin with, but, you know, you're never too good to learn. And learning from the developers themselves is pretty, you know, pretty awesome. Can't really ask for a much better start. So, questions. We hope there will be more PvP operation, or PvE operations. Do you have any plans on this side? Wargaming responded, saving Transylvania was a success among you guys, so we will look at more opportunities of this sort. It does, however, take a considerable amount of time and development manpower to iron out all of the nooks and crannies of such a feature. So new entries for alternate game modes are something that we'll work on, but there are no exact plans to share yet. So in other words, it's a big undertaking to come up with an entire, you know, story, and you know, that's the small part, the story, and then putting in the works to make it happen, all of the code that has to go into all of that. It's a very, very complex and it's a lot of work. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with how Wargaming does things. Wargaming on their own, massive, right? Huge company, game developers in multiple countries, just absolutely killing it. But the way they do it is they have smaller game studios that actually are isolated and working on each project, like World of Tanks console, the development team that I'm used to over there, completely different from World of Warships Legends. They're their own teams. They work for the same mother company, but they're their own teams, and they work out these problems and stuff on their own, and they're not that many of them. So that's why sometimes it can take a little while to hear back. But they're very good usually at getting back to you. But just keep that in mind. But at least we know that there are other things that we can look at. Next question. Can we have bigger divisions? Wargaming responds, the thing with divisions is that two people who are considerably synergistic, aka they play well together, if they play together, the division becomes a huge advantage for their team, and that is not wrong. Even if two randoms that just happen to click, even if you can't even communicate with them, but you just happen to know what the other one's thinking and actually work off one another, completely turns the tide of the battle. And you've seen it in my videos when I just happen to find a random teammate that just me and them get along, whether we're communicating or not. We just happen to, you know, we know what the other one needs at a given time. that is the kind of thing that completely changes the battles. And even having a third of the team, which is what they go on to say, even a third of the team is a huge, huge change to the battle, let alone more than that. Now, I understand I am one of them as well who has multiple people. I would love to have a 5-man platoon, but you're talking about over half the team at that point. Because if you think about World of Tanks console, they had 5-man platoons, right? But that's 5 out of 15. That's a third of the team. So if you're putting more than a third of the team in a division, you're creating a mismatch, and matchmaking can't make up for that. It's very difficult because you'd have to put more good solo players against a division of average players, you know what I'm saying, to balance the teams. So just keep that in mind. That's why we can't have the bigger divisions. But they also say in here that they are looking at Clan Wars is going to be coming out. So that'll be cool. You'll be able to get in clans and do competitive battles and stuff like that. In which case, in Clan Wars, your entire team will be obviously your clan. So you pick your best players out of your clan and you go up against the best players of the enemy clan. So that's going to be fun. I love competitive play anyway, and it'll be interesting if we start getting into that. I don't usually have a whole lot of time, so I can't get into the super competitive scene that everybody else loves to get into. I would love to, because I think that I could improve enough to actually be competitive, but I just don't have that kind of time. You have to devote a stupid amount of time to learning everything there is to learn about the game. That's not just the patterns of all the people that are playing, and you know, that's nothing. The maps, all of that stuff, you have to learn everything. You have to know at what angle you can penetrate everything. You have to, there's so much that you have to learn to be at that competitive level. I'm better than average people. I know that. You guys mention it all the time. But I am not those people. Like, those people are heads and shoulders above me. I played with them and against them in World of Tanks. It's the same thing. They put so much time and effort into preparing themselves in the game that I just can't match it. I just can't. And I don't think I have the mental fortitude to match it either. But moving on. Sorry I get off topic. This is how we go sometimes. Can we get a manual secondary? Answer: we understand that there are some ships, aka the Tirpitz, the Scharnhorst, and the Bismarck, that would benefit from a playstyle focused on secondaries. We're not yet, however, clear on a correct implementation, whether it be a control method or simply improved effectiveness. We're going to give this question more of an in-depth look in 2020. So here's my thing on this. Manual secondaries I don't want, and I'll explain. On PC, manual secondaries screw you. And anybody who's played on PC will know what I'm talking about. If you get into a fight, you have to choose who your ship shoots at with secondaries. The way we have it on console is it's automatic. If a ship is on your left side will start shooting at it. If your ship is on the right side and they're in range, the right side will be shooting at them. And if you have two ships, one on either side, both sides will be firing. On PC, when you have to choose which side is firing, the left side can be completely dead, and there'll be a destroyer sneaking up on you. They'd be spotted the whole time, and the secondaries won't open up on them. And so that's why I say, I'd rather not have that. But I do believe that secondaries definitely need a rework, at least a rebalance. They need to be more effective. The whole point of secondary firing is that they're supposed to help keep people at bay. Now, against battleships, I understand a battleship versus battleship, secondaries of firing, they're not getting a whole lot done. They do set fires, and fires do add up, especially in one of those battles. But against lighter armored targets, such as light cruisers especially, like the Atlanta, and destroyers, light cruisers and destroyers shouldn't be able to just run up on the side of a battleship within a kilometer and a half trying to Suatorp somebody and not take almost any damage from secondaries. The secondaries in this game are incredibly dumb. And I don't mean that as like hey, they did no. I mean, just the AI for the secondaries, it just kind of throws it out there, and that's why I laugh at Bismarck players. Even in my battleship, it's hard for their secondaries to connect consistently with my battleship, let alone faster moving targets that are smaller. So that's why I say that it needs a rework and that the secondaries are dumb. Not that the like fact that they are dumb. It's just like it's like you have somebody dumb firing the gun. Like they can't see the ship out there and shoot it. But I get it. You can't have secondaries just constantly landing all the hits either. There's got to be some RNG in there. Otherwise, it'll just be a mess, especially for people going up against the German battleships or the Amagi, for instance, who has pretty good secondaries as well. But moving on from that, question, we have potential damage counters, spotting damage counter, damage received, that sort of thing. It's definitely something that would be nice to have, but there's no ETA on such counters yet, as realistically they don't really change much if we're honest. However, you can expect some combat missions taking potential damage in account relatively soon. And what I think that is leading up to something we'll talk about later in this video also, is potential damage. So, in a battleship is when you're going to receive the most potential damage, right? Those are the numbers that are absolutely insane. Like you had 1 million or more damage shot at you in this match, right? But you only took so much and you eventually die or you don't die. But that is potential damage. It's not how much damage you have shooting out there. I mean, if you're just firing your guns willy-nilly, you're not going to get extra points for that. But for being the person that's at the front being shot at the entire game while your team is off in a corner hiding somewhere, that's where the boosts would come from as far as potential damage. And to see some missions going to that would be actually pretty cool. Might change the way some people play their ships. But anyway, moving on to the next one, we have, are you planning to change the spawn points? Wargaming says, indeed we are. Maps meant for higher tiers will receive an update on the spawn areas, mostly for battleships. In other words, it sounds like they're going to finally put battleships a little bit further back at the start so we're not spotted immediately and getting citadeled from across the map. Even though I kind of like that because I'm a pretty good shot usually, so I'm kind of liking the idea of me being able to citadel people right off the bat, but I can understand why some people get frustrated by it, because you got to make a choice at the beginning of the match which way you're going to go. And if you're going to make the choice and go broadside right off the bat at 19 kilometers thinking you're safe, and then you get caught by an Iowa and citadeled into oblivion, I mean, I can understand where you'd be a little bit frustrated. Especially if you can't even shoot them back. Next we have, will there be any gameplay affecting weather effects coming in Legends? Now, I'm not sure if they think what we were or what this person was thinking when they were asking the question. Wargaming, if you're watching this, feel free to leave a comment below, let us know. But from this, it sounds like the person is referring to weather variants such as Cyclone in World of Warships, where it drops the spotting down and all of that stuff, so you're not able to see as far, you're able to remain undetected longer, that sort of thing. But what their answer here, no such plans yet. This would require rework to ballistics and sailing physics, which is a huge chunk of code. And I think what they're thinking is wind and stuff going to play a factor in your shots? And I can understand why they'd be like, guys, that's a bit much. Like, we already have a pretty in-depth game, and we would have to rework everything to make that happen. But as far as what the question originally was, I think they may have oopsied here. But if so, let us know in the comments below. I'm sure, maybe I'm wrong. But that's what it sounds like the question was asking to begin with, was, is there going to be a chance for weather variants that affect, like, spotting or being spotted or the radio range so that we can't see things that are spotted, things like that. Kind of like we had World of Tanks console. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of that, just saying. But I like the weather to an extent, but it should never take away from the beauty of the game, because you guys do make beautiful games. World of Tanks console, World of Warships, Legends, absolutely fantastic to see in 4K. And then you have a giant thunderstorm, sandstorm, snowstorm, whatever, going on that just completely blurs out everything. And then on top of that, the gameplay suffers because of it also. So Personally, I'm not a big fan on weather variants affecting everything. I do like a little bit of weather, having a little bit of rain going on, maybe a thunderstorm going on while you're out there in battle kind of adds to the ambiance. but but going crazy with it just gets a little bit old after a while. First few times may be pretty cool, then after that it's just like, come on. Seems like every map I end up with some crazy weather. No. And especially for those of us who record, it just doesn't look as good. So moving on from that, which nation is likely to be next added? And Wargaming says, sorry, our lips are sealed on this one. So they're not going to tell us. Next question, where is the Yamato? We are preparing a streamlined testing event that'll allow you to try Yamato in battle by the end of this year. You can guess that it's soon. Essentially, you would have to play for a bit to get to use her and then take her into battle. You won't be able to own her in 2019, but in 2020, Yamato will be a tech tree ship, according to Wargaming. So that's cool. Or maybe it's not a tech tree ship. Maybe it's going to be a premium ship. Maybe it's going to be a Japanese battleship that you get the 750,000. I'll be real honest. If they get it, I better keep my mouth shut because they'll actually listen to that. I'll keep my mouth shut because that'll hurt all of us if I open my mouth any further. So we'll just go on from that. But Yamato is coming, and by the end of the year, we're going to get to play with her, but we won't get to own her until 2020. So it's going to be fantastic, guys. Next question. Any news about the Jean Bart? She is a lean and mean high-tier French battleship, which you will get to meet this year. Again, soon. Now, if I had to take a guess, this is another one of those that is going to end up as the 750,000 XP, free XP ship for the French. If I had to guess. I already had the Tirpitz from the original campaign for the Tirpitz, but I am assuming that that's what this will end up. I could be wrong. This is just me. This is speculation, guys. Keep that in mind. I am not a Wargaming employee. I'm just a guy like you guys out here having fun. I just try to give you information and sometimes stir up a little controversy. So, moving on. With Boise now in the game, do you think Mogami could receive her 5x3 155mm guns? If not, why? In all honesty, Mogami is performing perfectly fine. Both her torpedoes and fire starting abilities are something many players get good and often great results with. Anecdotally, Mogami holds the cruiser damage record that still has not been broken. Really? I mean, I might have to take a look at the Mogami. At the moment, I'm at Furtaka. So I haven't actually gotten a chance to move on down the line because everything started coming out with the German battleships and then the French battleships. And so I kind of got sideswiped. So maybe we'll get back in and get some Japanese cruisers some love, huh? Okay, so next. Some modules and upgrades, main armament mod 1 and others, are missing in Legends compared to PC. Any plans on adding such? The answer? Some upgrades, like the durability ones for destroyers, are actually built in. Some were removed because they were always the default choice. So in other words, they tried to put in the best of the consumables into World of Warships Legends as stock, and that way you don't have to go through and change. Though it would be nice to have some different stuff that we can have a little bit of fun with. But it sounds like some of the stuff that people always used on PC to like improve ships just got added as default onto the ships. So then you get to choose more stuff, and can't really argue with that too much. Let's see. Will Legends ever add more historical commanders for each existing nation? Answer: it is possible. However, commanders for potential new nations will most likely precede any extra personnel for existing sides. In other words, they're still focusing early development on pushing out as many new nations as possible, and until they get to a point at which they are satisfied with how many nations are available to us to grind, then they'll start adding more per, nation that way. And honestly, their development has been absolutely ridiculous up to this point. Think of it. We're not even a year in. And think of all of the updates and all of the new ships and stuff that have been brought in. It's been crazy. Okay. Is there a possibility for a replay system? Answer, considering you can record your games, we don't prioritize that feature high. To be honest, it will also find only a limited use in the end, but we agree that it'd be nice to have. Unfortunately, no ETA. In other words, it'll be something that's way down the line that probably shows up eventually. They know that all of the consoles nowadays are built in with game DVRs. Not everybody has access to large storage dedicated specifically to storing said clips. So I can understand that side of it. But from their side of it, you're capable of recording on your own. So it's kind of a low thing. And not that many people are going to be using the replay feature to send videos into your favorite YouTubers like me. Right? No? Okay. My feelings hurt all the way down to my toes. Just want you to know that. All right, so when will we be able to select our own port? Probably when it will be the prevailing issue in the feedbacks. See, I like when they give answers like this. In other words, it's not going to happen. Most likely. Because there's always going to be other things ahead of it. This is purely, a pretty up your it's just, personally, I like the port the way it is. Okay, I don't know why somebody would want to select a different port, but it is what it is. There's always going to be somebody that wants to make something different. There's customizability and all that thing. And if we're going to do that, I would love to see the ability to make our own badges, something like that. Obviously, there's going to have to be some limits because if you've ever played Call of Duty and seen some of the badges that people make on that, I can understand why a lot of games don't do it. But that would be cool. Or the ability to name our ships and have it appear on the side of the ship. That'd be awesome. Again, there'd have to be some limits, but it would be a cool feature. Azure Lane collaboration. Speaking of which, I recently picked up Azure Lane on my my smartphone and started playing it. So, yeah, it's not a bad game. I don't think it would be YouTubeable, but it's not a bad game. Not impossible, but nothing to share regarding any collabs yet. This sort of thing usually comes a couple years into development, just because as a collaboration, usually there has to be some give and take on both sides, right? That's generally how collabs work. Look at me and T-Bowl. Both of us get a benefit, and both of us get, to put in work to make that happen. And it's the same thing here. In other words, World of Warships Legends needs to get itself not finalized, but like established enough to where there's enough people that are playing it every day for these collaborations to make sense for partners outside of World of Warships Legends. Now, Wargaming's a big name, and I'm sure that if they wanted to collaborate, that Azure Lane would most likely go along with it. So it's definitely a possible situation in the future. But as from a primarily business standpoint, you want to give some time to build up and make sure that it's going to be worth it for everybody involved. Okay? The next question. Oops. Why is it that French ships, high-tier cruisers, and Les Terribles do not have the main battery reload booster consumable? And the answer? Artillery-wise, the French turned out very effective in our game. Same can be said for Les Terribles, which on top of its pretty gimmicky intentionally, there's no denying that unique consumables add flavor to the gameplay, but there's also the age-old issue of balancing everything. So basically, they want to keep balance. Think of wargaming as Thanos, okay? Everything, it needs to be balanced perfectly, right? Got to have balance. That's their main thing. They try to make it so that no one nation has a huge advantage, unless, of course, it's World of Tanks and it's Russian tanks. So, no one nation has any advantage over the rest, right? They have their own identity, so that makes you want to get those ships, but they're not heads and shoulders above everything else. That's just the way they try to make it. Take the Iowa, for example. Everybody looks at the Iowa and they're like, oh my god, the Iowa is so overpowered. It's this 900-foot long dreadnought behemoth. It's got 16-inch guns and battle tanks like a madman. But how do they balance it? Well, it's got weak sides, very weak sides, as in anything with 203 millimeters or above can easily punch through the side of it and citadel it with impunity. It turns like an absolute sloth and has terrible torpedo reduction. So you turn slow, you run into torps, and you die from those torps. Okay? And then on top of that, the deck armor is also kind of weak, so you get those nasty penetrations right through the superstructure down into the deck pretty easily because it's 900 feet long. So there's always balance, guys, and that's their main thing, because they don't want the people to be getting, videos out there going, oh my god, this ship is OP, or, that sort of thing, because it's bad publicity. This is a competitive online multiplayer game that is free to play, that they want as many people playing as possible, and that doesn't help when people get into their favorite nation ships, usually the one they're from. Let's be real. British folk like their British ships. Americans like our American ships. We all like to test the waters everywhere else, but in the end, we usually choose the nation that we're from. That's how that normally goes, unless, of course, you're from the middle of a landlocked country, and then in which case, you don't really have a ship. But you get what I'm saying. So they want it to be fun for anybody to just jump in and have some fun with their favorite ships that they grew up, looking up to. And so having less consumables that are nation-specific are a good thing for that. Now, is it out of the realm of possibilities? No. They say right here, there's no denying that unique consumables add flavor to the gameplay. But there's also the age-old issue of balancing everything. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, which is how they usually answer most of their questions, but it's unlikely at this point. Question, horns, honk. I'm glad you put the honk in there, because maybe they'd have come out and put some Bolvi horns on everybody's ship, and everybody would be like, what are you doing, Wargaming? Or if you're Bolvi, you'd be like, this is awesome! Love you, Bull. Anyway, horns are cool and sometimes useful, but there are things that we need to focus on before we go all silly. Yes, thank you, Wargaming. Until we get to it, honk honk to you, Captain. Okay. Okay, question. Any plans on adding more historical camouflages to Tech Tree ships? As a matter of fact, all of the permanent camos available for the German and French ships in the store or Admiralty are historical adaptations. There's a very good chance that future editions will follow this rule. I love the idea of permanent camo. I'm not going to lie. If you give me the option today to go in and buy permanent camo for every ship that I use all the time, I'm going to do it. I will literally buy the permanent camo right now. I love permanent camo. And camo, I can't overstate how much camo affects your game. Like, just having the ability, not necessarily as a battleship worrying about the 4.5% concealment, but that 4.5% extra dispersion definitely affects the game. Definitely. So, with that in mind, this has been the questions and answers from World of Warships Legends developers themselves. And again, I will put this link in the description. If you want to read it yourself, click on the video go to their YouTube channel, that sort of thing, to find out their developer videos that they put out. By all means, you'll have a chance to do that. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Sorry that I got a little carried away, but sometimes that's the way things go. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.